Hello, everybody. This is a special edition of the Reconnect All podcast. I am here with a wonderful friend of mine, but first, I'm going to just start off just like I normally do. We're just going to breathe. Big inhale and exhale. Big inhale. Exhale. One last time and make sure on that exhale, we actually hear you. Big inhale and exhale. And shake it, shake it, shake it off. So, I am going to read. I was looking for the book that I wanted. It's the She book, and I couldn't find it. But when I went onto Facebook, Tanya Markle, who is the author of the She book, she had posted a poem. And so I'm just going to read that. So I have a little screenshot of it. And so it says, again, this is by Tanya Markle. She's not attaching herself to obstacles. She's focused on her mission. She's building her confidence and resisting self-sabotage. She refuses to compare or compete. She's not stressing about knowing everything, and to her, no dream is too big or grandiose. She takes notes. She gets inspired. She doesn't get pulled into fear or fade into the past. Her effort isn't in vain. She chooses to love herself over disliking herself every single day. She's saying, know what you want. Think about who you are. You've already come so damn far. Now, isn't that appropriate? That is perfect. That is perfect. Absolutely perfect. So the voice that you are hearing is my friend, Cathy. And Cathy, I've known her, I'm going to say it's at least 5 to 6 years. Mm-hmm. And something I have you in my phone, I've always had you in my phone as Cathy Mermaid. Because that is the impression that I received when I first met you. And it just kind of stuck, Cathy Mermaid. So,
that's so funny.
So Cathy, you are, I originally met you, you were doing energy work. You were teaching me about angel healing. You are also the facilitator for Wings on the Ground.
Right.
And you are also what I don't know if it's the proper term, but a death doula?
Yes.
Okay, that is the proper. Okay. There are so many other things. You're an alchemist. Yes. And that is what I love about you the most, is because you put things together. You blend.
Right.
You blend things, and for the betterment of everybody else.
Right.
Yes. Okay, so we're going to start with the angel light.
Okay.
Tell me a little bit about angel light.
Angel light is part of another system of healing called La Ho Chi. And it's also a standalone energy. So what I had initially been doing was angel light initiations, and that's when we met.
Yes.
And I haven't done one of those in quite a while, basically because, well, like everything else that was on hold for the past year, because we couldn't have gatherings. And angel light is a hands-on healing method. So there was no way that we could gather for a class. So I'm really looking forward to getting back to being able to do that. That is simply calling in the energy of the angels. And there's a ceremony that we go through so that you receive an attunement, rather like Reiki attunements, where you get the energy of the healing angels that you can use on others or on yourself. And It's great with animals. It's great with little children. You can use it on plants. Very similar to Reiki or La Hochi,
Okay.
but it specifically uses angelic realms.
Are you calling upon different angels, or for people who don't even know what Reiki is, how would you describe it?
Angelite?
Yes.
You are using your own body as a vessel or as a channel for the energy to come into you, through you, and to the other person who is the receiver of the energy. It can be done remotely too. So you build a muscle, kind of. The more you do it, the stronger your own energy is to transmit the angel light energy. And so it's not recommended when you first receive it to work on somebody that has like a big illness. You know, you wouldn't do that because you don't have a large enough container to hold strong enough energy when you're first learning it. So I found it very effective when my kids were little and they couldn't sleep. They would come to me for angel light to help them sleep. If you're around little kids in a store and they're distressed about something and crying, sometimes you can just look at them and send them angel light just with intention. And almost every time the child will look right at you, like they know that something's coming towards them and they love it. Cool. and they quiet right down.
Now you've mentioned that, okay, your kids are adults now.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing this?
Oh gosh. I think I started taking the La Hochi. Well, actually, let me back up. I took angel light first. I went to an initiation and I had a huge download experience. Can I go into that?
Yeah.
Because it's pretty cool. I was in a room of about 30 people and I only knew the person that had invited me and one friend that I took with me. And it's similar to other energy healing trainings where you have a giver and a receiver. So we did the whole process about getting attuned to the angel light energy. And I was the receiver with my partner first. And I didn't feel anything, to be honest. I was kind of like one.
It's kind of like I was with Reiki 1.
And I was like, well, this is really a big fat nothing. And my friend had a really bad cold. And so when we switched and I was giving the angel light to her, she had a really bad cough and she kept coughing and coughing. And in my mind, I was thinking, well, this energy is going to have to be a lot stronger than this to heal that cough. I was very skeptical, you could say. And right as I had that thought, a huge, now I have to have a disclaimer here that this is not everybody's experience. But I had this huge violet light come out of the corner of the room up at the ceiling, like a laser beam into my body. And then I saw this face, who I later found out was Saint Germain. I didn't know who it was. And he was kind of just hovering in midair on this beam of purple light. And he said, I bring to you the gift of the violet light for healing. And I started, my whole body got hot as I was giving her the angel light energy. And she stopped coughing, but I started like sobbing. My whole body was shaking. And I'm looking around the room and nobody else is having an experience like this. And I felt so weird because I felt like, why me? Because most of the other people in the room had been on a spiritual path and had been taking training.
That's
Most
what-
of them were
this
older
was your
than me.
first. This was your
Yes.
first experience.
Yes, yes. And so I was like, okay, what's going on? Because I'm the only one sitting here sobbing and shaking, and you know what's this all about? And when it was finished, since I was the giver second, we wrapped up the whole initiation.
Mhm.
Was finished after I did my session on her, and they took me outside and sat me down in the grass
For you to ground.
for me to ground. And all of this was brand new.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the heck had happened. And after that, I think it's safe to say my life has never been the same.
So Angel Light came first, and then La Ho Chi.
Yes, I went ahead and signed up and took La Ho Chi, and so that took about probably a year, because at that time we had to do 4 weekend trainings, and then you had to do a certain number of sessions on people and write about them, and then you went and did like a practical, and got certified.
So at this point of your life, after the Angel Light and the La Ho Chi, did you acknowledge yourself as a medium at the time? No. Okay.
I still didn't.
This came later. Okay. So I don't know what the term is. Your awakening didn't happen till it wasn't something that you grew up with.
Oh no.
Okay.
No. I always felt like I was different. And I had a real connection with being outside in nature. I felt like I could see the little fairies or little energies outside. And so I always felt like I was different. But even in grade school, when things would come through me, like telepathically, there was, and when I was in third grade, now I know that this probably sounds really weird to some people that I would have such a memory of something like this, but it was like a profound experience.
Right.
And we were studying Egypt at that time, and we were learning hieroglyphics and what the different symbols meant. Mm-hmm. And so we each had to come up with a short sentence in hieroglyphics. And I really loved my third grade teacher. I mean, she was just Miss It. She was just wonderful. And when it was she made us go up to the board. So everybody went up to the board with their piece of paper and wrote their sentence. Mm-hmm. And then that group would sit down and they should call on each student and say, okay, what is your sentence? What does that say? And we would discuss it in class. So when it was my turn in my group to go up to the board, I don't even remember if I had a paper in my hand. And I started writing, but it was like a paragraph instead of a sentence. And the other kids in my group went and sat down, and I was still writing. And the teacher, I even remember her name is Miss Davidson. And she said, that's enough, Cathy. You can go sit down now. And I remember turning around because I felt like I was shining, I was glowing. I was just doing this masterpiece. And I turned around and looked at her, and the look of fright and fear on her face made me shut down, because I was like, oh, I've done something bad. Mm-hmm. And that's all I can remember about that experience. Yeah. I don't even remember her calling on me for me to explain what my story was about. I blacked out. Mm-hmm. I don't remember anything more about that. So I learned at a really early age. How old are you in third grade? Like 8? 8, yeah. Yeah. So I learned at an early age that even if I was getting information, I had it blocked. So I was not open until I was an adult.
Okay. Yeah. So I mentioned that you are a medium.
Yes.
And that ties into you being a death doula.
Yes.
Now, I had just a small experience, nothing compared to what you do about helping someone transition who's on hospice. It's a very humbling experience. It's not something that I advertise that I do. I'm just going to let it, if it comes just like the first gentleman came, if that opportunity comes again, I'm not going to pass it up. I spent a lot of years of my life not ignoring death as much as possible.
Right.
You know, I don't do funerals. You know, it's just, I'm with the person when they're alive, show my respect when they're alive, but that death part just wasn't really my thing.
Right.
And going through this experience and even talking to you about dying, it helped me just cross over, just to be more open to the ideal.
Right.
But what you do as a death doula, you go above and beyond. Please explain what a death doula is.
Well, I'm not a normal death doula.
Okay. Please explain what you do.
What I do. It started back when my La Ho Chi teacher actually passed away. And she had breast cancer, and she kind of came to me in spirit. And let me back up a little bit. When she was diagnosed with the breast cancer, they were living in Hillsborough, North Carolina, and I'm sure they wouldn't mind me telling the story. She called for myself and 2 other La Ho Chi practitioners from Greensboro to drive to where they were living in Hillsborough. She came to Greensboro because they had family there. They asked a couple of us to go and work on her, to do La Ho Chi on her. And as soon as I touched her, I knew that she was using the cancer as her exit, whether we wanted her to or not. That was going to be her exit. So she went back home, and she did get sicker and sicker. She did pass away from it. But about 2 weeks before she passed, I sat down on the couch and started reading this book called Deathing. And there were 2 mantras in this book. And I connected with her telepathically. By that point, I already had some experiences with doing readings from people that were on the other side. But I connected with her telepathically and read the mantras over and over and over to her. The next week, one of my friends called and said that she and this other lady were going to drive up to Hillsborough because she was getting ready to cross. And did I want to go? And I said, no, I've been working with her doing remote work. I'm fine.
Right.
I don't need to go. You go on and go. So I'm sure you've heard that sometimes when people are already crossed over and they try to communicate with you, a lot of times they'll use electricity and make a phone ring, or the lights will go off and on, or they'll use different forms of electricity to get your attention. So I hung up from my friend and I went to the bathroom. And while I was in the bathroom, the light went off and back on and off and back on. So I called my friend back. And I said, okay, I'm going with you. So we went, and I anointed her body with some oils. And while I was there, I had told her that she was going to go out with the rain. That was a message I got from Spirit for her. And so I kind of whispered that to her, that you'll go when it's raining. You'll go out with the rain. And so we went back to Greensboro and got a call the next morning that she had passed the next morning, and it hadn't rained there in a couple of weeks. And the moment she took her last breath, there was a clap of thunder and it started pouring rain. And the people that were with her when she crossed over knew what I had told her, that she was going to go out with the rain. And they called me right away. And they said, you were right. And it was, I really felt like it was her that was giving me that experience of helping somebody cross over, to support me in doing that work. Now, most death doulas, when you are trained to do that, you're supporting the person who's dying, but you're also supporting the family. I kind of don't do that. I am almost 100% helping the person cross over, because I actually go into spirit myself. I meet their spirit self and ask them what they need to have a peaceful crossing. And so different people are different. I have gone to people who were dying and met them wherever they were, and they didn't need any help, you know? So I would say, okay, bye. And I know there was one man, his father needed practice. He was a big burly fireman, and he was a real macho man, but he was scared that he didn't know what he needed to do to leave his body to cross over. And so I made up this word called a look-see. I said, okay, well, I'm going to come to you in spirit and we're going to go on a look-see. So I did. I arrived at the hospital myself, and I don't know who these other beings were, helped him out of his body to show him how to do it, how easy it was. And so the next night I went to him again, and he was already out of his body, and he was so proud of himself. I don't know how I do that. So I haven't been able to teach it, because I don't know how to explain how I can do that. And so the most I have done here, and you've taken that class, was creating sacred space, which is what most regular doulas do when they're helping to create a sacred space for somebody who is crossing over, and they're very attentive to the family. And I don't know if it's because you have to be really open-minded to be okay with somebody contacting your loved one in spirit and helping them cross over. So most of my work doing that also is word of mouth.
Did it scare you the first time you did it?
No. Well, it scared me in a way because I didn't want to be known as like the Grim Reaper. I'm serious. The first time when I did that, well, the first time was kind of with Rio, but after that, even the first time that I had communication, which was before, I think it was before her death. I'm not sure. It was after I had taken La Hochine. I was doing a session on somebody, and a mail came through, and I started giving the client information, and it was her husband who had just passed like 6 months prior. And he started coming through with writing letters to her that he would dictate to me. And at that point, that's when I had the feeling about, I don't want to be known as the Grim Reaper. I don't want to be known as the Angel of Death, you know.
Right.
But then I started really understanding that not only was I helping this soul cross over peacefully, not scared, but it also has helped the family so much. One of our mutual friends, when her parents crossed over, I helped both of them, and there were points where I would say, now don't worry about any sounds that are coming, because that's the body shutting down. Your person is not in pain. It's just sounds that they're making. And like right after I would say that, it would happen.
Right.
So I wish I knew. It's the same energetic space that I go to when I'm doing a reading for somebody as when I'm helping the spirit or the soul of the person cross over.
So somebody can come to you for a reading.
Mhm.
They don't have to be on their deathbed.
Oh no.
Okay.
Yeah. And I do all different readings too. Some people are interested in past lives, which I'll do that. Typically, the only thing that comes through is if somebody has a mastery in something that they haven't tapped into in this life, that they have brought forward from a past life.
Mhm.
It might be something like, say you like to dabble in painting.
Okay. I don't, just
but say you did.
Okay.
and you enjoyed it, that you really didn't think you were good, or you didn't give much stock in it, but it was very relaxing for you to do that. To know that you were a master at something in a previous life, to tap into it more, all of a sudden it just automatically seems to up your game. And all of a sudden you have this skill that you really hadn't thought a whole lot about, but you enjoyed doing it.
Mhm.
And yeah, most of the past life readings are like that.
So you also use tarot cards and oracle cards?
I don't use
You
tarot
don't
cards.
use tarot, just
No,
oracle. Okay.
because I know Denise is a wonderful person to go to for that. As is Ivy. I have not ever had the patience to learn tarot.
Okay.
But to me, that looks like really hard. But I do have lots of different oracle cards, and the cards talk to me. Usually when I have somebody use cards for a reading, I'll have them pick out their own cards so that their energy is in the cards. But I typically only use cards if I'm doing like a psychic fair or something like that. They're very short readings. They're like 20 minutes.
Right.
Most of my readings are an hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to change gears. We're going to talk, what is wings on the ground?
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's, wow. So much time do we have? Wings on the Ground came about while I was doing Angel Light, when I was still doing the Angel Light initiations in 2013. At the end of each Angel Light, I started receiving what I would call downloads of sounds that the angels were asking me to open my mouth and channel these sounds, which I found out later was light language, but I didn't have any kind of a background in that at all. And so that kind of frightened me a little bit. And plus, I'm a very, I know you're probably going to laugh when I say this, but I'm a very shy person. I know every time I mention that, you look at me and you just laugh. But I really am, or at least I am inside. Maybe I'm a good actress. I don't know. But it was very hard for me, because in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, what are they going to think of me? They're going to think I'm a kook. Maybe they do. I don't know. But it was so strong. And one thing that I have learned over all these years now is that if Spirit asks me to do something and I don't do it, I will get the opportunity over and over and over again until I say yes. So it's easier just to say yes at first. So it was light language, I found out. And so I started doing it at the end of every Angel Light and giving messages to people in light language. And I'll explain that in a minute. But after a while, maybe 3, 4, or 5 months, it felt like it wanted to be its own entity and break away from Angel Light. So I started teaching the classes. Well, let me back up. So I sat down with the angelics, and they said that they wanted to teach humans how to be their representatives on Earth, as we're on the Earth, helping other people. to empower the people that are going through the training, to empower them, to set them on their own path, to give them the confidence to move forward on their own journeys. It's never been about a way to do anything. It's been about a way of being. So they channeled through 9 different virtues of different aspects, like courage and unconditional love, clarity of purpose. And so what we do now is periodically have weekend retreats, and we go through all 9 of the virtues. And I've been very cognizant of the fact that people learn in different ways. And so we have like discussions about each one of the virtues using a whiteboard, a dry erase board, because some people are visual learners.
Right.
And we have a meditation. And after that, we have music. Oh, the other thing is they asked me to start singing the light language. So that was another level of resistance. Because to sing in front of a group of people that I don't know was also not comfortable for me. And I have a singing voice that would be good for theater because it's loud, but it's not especially beautiful, and in my own opinion. And so that took some getting used to also. Yeah. But I always have listened when I'm asked to do something. Right. When I was first asked to make the flower essences, I was very resistant to that too, because that sounded like a lot of research.
Well, and that's the next thing, the essences. I mentioned earlier, because you're an alchemist. You put things together. It's not like I do essential oils, but you do something totally different.
Right.
What are flower essences?
Okay. Flower essences do not contain any bit of the actual plant. So how you make a flower essence is to take a twig, because I do tree essences as well. So you would take a piece of bark or a flower, an actual flower petal, and you let it steep in a bowl of water for about 4 hours. When I first started making them, I made them during full moon times. But then I started doing them during the day to get solar energy in. And because again, that was my guidance to switch that. So I did. And so it's the energetic imprint of the plant. Just as we do energy healing, and you're bringing that in from the energy that is in the cosmos, that's in every breath we take, has this energy in it. So too do plants and crystals have this energy, and they're all for different things. And so I do purchase some that are made by other people that I trust. I don't typically use a lot of the Bach essences, although that's what I used when I first started, just because they're mass produced. So I prefer to make my own if I can. And so the elixirs that you see in my office space, an elixir is a combination of single essences. So an essence is going to be just one thing, like a rose. But like the I Am collection that I did, that we were talking about earlier off camera, that would be a collection of maybe 5 different flower essences, 2 tree essences, and maybe 2 or 3 crystals, different crystals, that combined have a synergy to them that will bring you what the intention is.
And that is something, the recipe
Mhm. That's what I call it. Formula.
The
Yeah.
formula, the recipe,
Yeah.
is something that you get from divine.
Yes.
Okay.
Hmm. And it's always so exciting to me because just my curiosity, and my guides know I'm a researcher. So if they say, what I started doing was I have all my single essences in boxes. And so now I will just rub my hands together to get the energy going, and I'll have the intention of what we're going to make. Even when I do a custom bottle for somebody, I do the same thing, rub my hands together, put them in the box without looking to see what I'm pulling out. And then I'll pull them out. And when they say it's complete, I don't pull out anymore. And then I'll go ahead and list all the ingredients and make the elixir. And then I'll spend time looking up to see, well, what's this good for?
Right.
And it's the same thing when I'm doing a reading for people, and animal spirits always come into their readings. I can have one animal be for a guide for two different people for two completely different reasons. And it's the same thing with the flower essences. It might say, well, this is good for A, B, C, D, E. And for my particular purpose in making this elixir, it might be for item number D that it's going into this blend. So I think when I very first started making them, and I was talking to people that made flower essences too, and I would say, well, I'm going to use this and this for this blend. Oh no, that's not, that won't be good for that. And no, I listen to my guides.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You are married.
I am.
How long have you been married?
It'll be 9 years next month.
So you were deep into this.
Yeah.
when you got married.
Yes. Yeah.
But he knew what was.
He knew. He knew, but he didn't really. His spirituality is very based on Native American.
Okay.
And so he doesn't necessarily believe in everything that I do, but he respects it and he supports. He supports everything I do, which is a big deal because some of the stuff is pretty far out. Going outside and looking up at the stars and calling in the star beings, and he's kind of like, okay. But he's a good guy, and we support each other.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. It's a special person to be able to do that, I think. Yeah. And we have crystals all over our house, and books about the Pleiadians. And so just my house is just so crazy with all of our different interests, and like the mermaids. I have mermaid paintings all over my house, and so we might have like a dream catcher and a mermaid right next to each other. So it's a very eclectic home.
But it works for the two.
But it works for us.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What can you recommend? Well, back up one question. How were you brought up? Were you brought up in a religious household?
No.
Okay.
Christian household.
Okay.
But not go every Sunday to church household. My dad's family was Catholic. My mom's family is Methodist. And so back in those days, for a Catholic to marry a Protestant, he got excommunicated from the church. And so, but he was never a real strict Catholic either. So we went to like vacation Bible school some summers. And we got read the Christmas story every Christmas Eve. We went to Easter Sunday at church. But my own upbringing was not real involved with church until maybe youth group. And then it was more a social thing. So I didn't have any kind of I'm not looking for the right word. I didn't have any kind of rules that had been ingrained in me to even think that talking to angels was unusual or scary or any of that. Basically, we were raised with the golden rule to treat other people like you want to be treated. And so I didn't have that kind of any kind of fear that what I was doing or that the beings that were communicating with me was anything wrong or anything bad about that.
So my final question, what would you tell somebody if they were struggling? They're trying to figure out who they are. How would you go? What would you advise them?
When somebody's coming to me the first time, if they're interested in getting a reading and doing energy work, I usually would do energy work on them first, because the energy has an intelligence of its own. So if you've got any blocks, energetic blocks, which I'm sure you can do a whole show on that, especially for people but I imagine your audience probably is pretty well versed in energy. So I would do energy healing on them first to open them up, because they don't need to do anything. They're just lying there on a massage table. And so they can open up and integrate that energy and drink lots of water and flush out the stuff they don't need anymore, and then have them come in for a reading. And just do a general reading. I mean, I do specialized readings, but just a general reading is, just I pick up on what may be troubling them. Sometimes I'll do scans of the body if they've had any problems with anything in their body that might come through. So, yeah, I think that would be the first step, would be to do the energy session first. Because really, they don't have to do anything except just lie there and accept. Yeah. Just receive. Yeah.
Where can somebody find you at?
Well, you and I have office spaces. We have our studios is at Inlet Holistic Health and Healing. That's at 920 Mount Gilead Road, Building C, Unit 1 in Murrells Inlet, South Carolina. The best way that somebody can reach me, though, is probably via text. Is it okay to say my phone number?
That's up to you. We're going worldwide, so your number is going to be worldwide.
I'm not in the office all the time. And the husband that Katrina had mentioned too, I work with him as well with his catering business. So I'm on the go all the time. So the easiest way to reach me is texting me or call me and leave me a message and I'll call you back. That number's 843-315-4373.
Awesome. Kathy, I want to thank you. If y'all notice, if you are watching us, you tell this is a different format. Kathy is actually in my home and we're sitting here having tea together.
Yeah.
Compared to doing a Zoom call, because we're almost neighbors.
Yeah. It took me 4 minutes to get here. I would have come over in my jammies if I could have walked.
But I thank you so much for taking the time to talk about you
Well,
and learning more
I've been
about
wanting
you.
to come over and do this with you, so this was good timing.
Yes.
So I'm hoping to listen to it as I'm working on Sunday,
Okay.
which is why we're pre-recording this.
Yes.
With
Yes.
with is the dog still in
No,
there?
he's on.
Oh, he left.
I think he left. Yeah. Thank you all for tuning in. Catch us again Sunday, 9 a.m. Reconnect All podcasts. You all have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful week, and I will see you soon. Many blessings to you both.
Mwah.
All. Bye-bye.
Bye.